I just look at it differently. I look at it like, well, it wasn't that horrible. It was more horrible than that. You can't show and capture the fear of death that you have. The fear of injury is worse for me. I wouldn't be fearful of death. I was fearful of laying there screaming in pain, or someone else laying there screaming in pain, not be able to stop that, which happened quite frequently. So it was, I know when people say it was one of the most horrifying experiences in your life, I don't know how to describe it to anyone that hasn't been trapped somewhere for 18 hours and you want to go home and they won't let you go home and they're trying to kill you actively the entire time. It was where I just gave up. I gave up on life, which gave me strength to kill and destroy things that night. And I think that was the beginning of my loss of empathy and compassion for everything on the planet for many, many years, and honestly until I met Jen.
Thank God Jen Satterly is here, or else we would not have any video today. So, Jen, we appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Yeah, Tom's just sitting here looking pretty, and we are.
That's all I can do.
Yeah. We are ready to rock. So I appreciate y'all coming on. This is the first podcast, 38 Challenge podcast, that we've had with 3 people. So, yeah, very, very honored to have y'all on here. I know you guys are inseparable. So because it's
she's my service person.
Yeah.
He used to joke and say dog. We've removed that too.
Animal. Now. I might have said animal.
Yeah, you can. You guys like pre-board on flights and stuff? Or?
I try.
Yeah, he does.
I try to.
Well, to make it easier on me, Jen, why don't you introduce Tom? Tom, why don't you introduce Jen?
Oh, okay. So Tom served 25 years in the Army. 20 of those were in a very elite unit, Delta Force. And during those 20 years, his first real combat mission was Black Hawk Down, the Battle of Mogadishu. And Tom was one of the lucky ones to run the Mogadishu Mile at the end. So that's how his combat career started. He had another 18 years in the unit after that. Was responsible for part of the team of capturing Saddam Hussein and did some really crazy things in those 20 years in that unit. So he came home from war and during retirement, I think it all really hit him. And that's where he really started to take a dive into the darkness. And it's been about a 9-year path back.
I was already in the darkness. I just dabbled in it a little more, yeah. So, yeah, Jen spent many, many, many years in marketing and advertising, working for companies like Jack Daniels, TWA, big companies, and lots of big models as well, taking photos. And they asked her to shoot a realistic military training exercise, which is where we met. And I think she said no 3 or 4 times before they volunteered told her that she was going to do it. They'd already signed her up for it. So she showed up and had no idea about that world, but it kind of met the world that she wanted to do in the past, like a National Geographic photographer. Mm-hmm. So it kind of met all that exciting things to do and do photography and film. So we met there. She was very unimpressed with me, I think, at the time when we met, as I was very unimpressed with me as well. And so we worked for 3 years doing that, co-founded a special operations training company together. And one day she decided she had to leave it because guys weren't returning back. Mm. You know, we would be the last thing they saw before they deployed overseas to combat. And we would give them everything horrible that we've seen in combat. And when the guys weren't returning back, like, oh, she'd get to know them, you know, be on target for 3 weeks with somebody, get to know them. She's like, hey, where's Jim? Oh, he didn't make it. Where's Bob? He didn't make it either. And she's like, okay, I don't like this job. I have to start a job where I help people when they get back on this side. So she got to work. Said we need to start a nonprofit, and I was like, all right, what? We're going to do what? I have no idea what we're doing. She said, we can do it. We can do it. So, and she got to work and did it. And here we are since 2014. 17.
We worked.
Oh, 17 was, yeah.
The official
17. Yes. But
yeah, and you guys are an awesome power couple that's doing so much for the veteran community and for warriors. And what I think is so interesting because people see this movie, Black Hawk Down, right? And it's been dramatized and, but for you, that was such a traumatic experience. So what was that experience like? And I guess like seeing it through the movie portrayed, how did that affect you as well?
I've watched the movie once, and it was
One and a half.
It was a premiere. Yeah, 1.5 times. It was the premiere, and everybody I was working with was there. So it was kind of a joke fest. We're all making fun of. Oh, is that you? Is that you? So it was easy to watch the movie with your friends and make fun of it. Since those 29 years, well, so about 20 years since then, since the movie's been made and watching it, it's I've been unable to finish it. Sit down. Jen's like, let's watch the movie. And sit down and start to watch. I'm like, I can do this. I'm like, nope. I got to turn it off. It's too real. The movie was made well, and some people can watch a movie. I've heard from other people it's one of the better war scene movies, and I just look at it differently. I look at it like, well, it wasn't that horrible. It was more horrible than that. You can't show and capture the fear of death that you have. The fear of injury is worse for me. I wouldn't be fearful of death. I was fearful of laying there screaming in pain, or someone else laying there screaming in pain, not be able to stop that, which happened quite frequently. So it was, I know when people say it was one of the most horrifying experiences in your life, I don't know how to describe it to anyone that hasn't been trapped somewhere for 18 hours and you want to go home and they won't let you go home and they're trying to kill you actively the entire time. It was where I just gave up. I gave up on life, which gave me strength to kill and destroy things that night. And I think that was the beginning of my loss of empathy and compassion for everything on the planet for many, many years, and honestly until I met Jen.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because so many people look at these movies, right, and they don't understand the people who actually went through it, right, and who have experienced this trauma. And it's not just for entertainment, right? This was your life, and it was something that was so, like you said, traumatic and led to you losing empathy and going into this dark place. So I just, for the listeners, like when you're watching one of those movies, like you have to, and for warriors out there who have gone through these things, like I think that's so important to know. It's not just a movie, like it's someone's life, and it's not for our entertainment. It's to understand, and we need to spread awareness on how it's impacting our warriors. So,
in fairness, every other military movie to me is entertainment.
Yeah, right.
I walked out of Saving Private Ryan. The opening scene, I was like, okay, they captured that one. I got teary-eyed. I'm getting there now. It's one of those. Man, they captured some horrible beach scenes of fear and the bullets flying, and I had to walk out. I got a little bit intense with that. But every other war movie to me is entertainment. Right? Hey, the party, the good guys win maybe, and sometimes the good guys die and throws you off and makes it a really good movie, a real emotional movie. But yeah, that was Black Hawk Down's not entertainment for me.
I'm like, he hates watching those movies with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember one time I was with my brother and we were watching, I forget the name of the movie. It was about a gang in Brazil in the slums. It's all in Brazilian. I forget what it's called. But he served in Mali, right? I remember specifically, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, right? Because I was just one of those guys being entertained by the movie. And I still love war movies, don't get me wrong, but you have to understand the sacrifice that goes into those stories and the real life events that took place. But there was a scene of a child who's dead on the road, and I've never seen my brother walk out or do any of these things. I've never seen him experience trauma. And then in that moment, he was like, I can't watch this. And he walked up and he went upstairs. And I finished the rest of the movie. I never asked him, what was going on. Because back then, no idea what it meant to be vulnerable, stayed away from hard conversations and all those things. So, I just wanted to point that out and draw attention to that moment. Because it's not just a movie for entertainment. It's something that really did happen.
That's what makes good movies, when they touch somebody that had that event happen in their life. That means something even more to that person, right? And if it's something that happened to a lot of people, some people say, Black Hawk Down, Somalia happened to America. Did it? Yeah, sure it did, and everyone's terrified watching it. And then 9/11, staring at 9/11, we'll never forget, and the horror and the fear and everything subsides, right? Mm-hmm. Everything goes away. People do forget. If you didn't, it'd be kind of bad.
Right.
The horrible memories that we hold on to, I think that's a protective measure. Absolutely. That we start to forget some things.
So from that moment, and you said that was the beginning of this darkness in your life, up until, I think, Jen, you met Tom through filming, right? As he introduced it. What did those years look like, Tom? What did that darkness look like for you?
Alcohol, narcissism, invincibility, pleasure seeking. I mean, you could fill in the blanks with all of that. It was just the warrior spirit. You know, I'm going to meet you in Valhalla kind of crap. You know, I'm going to fight all day long, go to battle all day, and then grab the women at night and drink mead and get drunk and then do it all over again. And I got to the point like, I don't ever want to do that shit, man. I don't want to fight all day long and get drunk on that. That sucks, man. You know, it's that story you tell yourself to keep you going. You know, I call it recruitment. The recruitment videos are always great. You don't see the bodies being brought home and the maimed people. And, you know, they don't show that much unless they want money for their nonprofit for that, right? You don't always see that. So that recruitment always works. Yeah. What was the question on that one?
No, you're good.
You'll get that a lot with me.
No,
like,
you're fine.
Right.
You're fine.
That one trailed off.
Well, no,
there.
you answered it. You answered it, I think, and you answered it on what it looks like on the surface.
Yeah.
So what did it look like as you were seeking these things of pleasure, right? Seeking Valhalla. What was the reason behind those actions, and kind of what did those internal demons look like?
Yeah. Wow. Huh? Inferiority, shame, lack of love for yourself, a hatred for yourself, actually, for everything you've done and everything that you continue to do in the day. You know, and then somebody tells you, oh, you're a good man, and yeah, I'm a good man, and then, you know, you go do something stupid again, and then you hate yourself again, and then you just end up in a world where all you do is wish you were dead, you know? You just wish that you could make it all end, and you wouldn't feel the way that you feel, and you wouldn't hurt the people that you hurt. So you put on this act about how tough you are and how much, you know, I don't care about anything, and I just love to drink, and and it was killing me back then, and it's killing me now to watch my friends go through it. And I'm trying to pull them over to the other side, and I'm arguing with people who don't want to be, don't want to be arguing and don't want to hear it. And I know I was there. I didn't want to hear it. And it's one of those sad averages where it takes an operator 13 years before they'll ask for help. That's 13 years of hell and horror before they're so low and so far down, and they probably tried to kill themselves multiple times, that they finally either luck into it or happen into it or bump into somebody that says, hey, call somebody or so-and-so, and they do, and then they start something. And then it's still hard. You know, it's still hard to keep going and change who you are, but it's easy to sit there and feel horrible about yourself. It's easy to put yourself down. There's a lot of people that are ready to jump on the bandwagon and put you down too for the actions that you've done. So it's real easy to feel that way about yourself. And it's really difficult to start feeling better, you know, about yourself, because you've spent 10, 15, 20 years, 25, 30 years being rewarded for being violent and aggressive and doing horrible things. And then all of a sudden that stops and you don't know how to get rewarded anymore. So I think your body seeks to do that and it can't. So it starts punishing itself. You know, I was punishing myself for everything I would do. I would never build myself up. You know, everyone's walking, oh, you're a hero, you're this and that. You're like, I'm a monster. Yeah, I'm a freaking monster. And you think you'll always be that way. So you enter in this dark depression of, I'll never be better. I'll always ruin people's lives. And the suicidal ideation is nonstop.
Did you, because from the conversations I've had, there's a lot of difference between suicidal ideation and then having, I think, a plan to take your life. Did it ever go beyond just ideation into something that you wanted to make permanent? Yeah.
Jen stopped one of them. I think, well, my first suicide attempt, she stopped it just by texting me nonstop, incessantly. She knew something was up. And I was just off in a rental car by myself thinking, you know, how am I going to do this? And let's get this done. And she just kept texting me. And I think I finally picked it up, like, what's going on? You know, it must be a crisis. Let me help.
Yeah.
And looked at it. I was late. You're late. You know, one of the last things she wrote was, you're late. And I was like, I'm never late for shit. And I put my gun away and I packed my stuff up and took off. Like, can't be late, right? And it was that easy to have that little mission that I almost screwed up, which didn't exist. And I didn't want to be late for it. And she had no idea what she had done for a couple of months. And then after that, it was, there was several other times where I've had my gun in my hand, banging it off my head, staring in front of her, screaming, like, what am I doing here? And not so much of a plan as an emotional event that, turned that way.
Yeah.
And that's happened several times of, the ideation of I want to drive my car into the bridge, or how can I, just the anger of the moment, I think is what guys consider, or what I considered suicidal ideation of, man, how can I just end it now? Here's an opportunity, just end it now, You did something stupid, end it now. But yeah, I think at least 3 times at least 3, enacted a plan or started the actions that she's either stopped or aggressively interdicted, which I can only imagine the hell it puts on her.
Yeah. Man, well, we started off deep and hot, didn't we?
Let's get right into it.
Yeah. And one of the points that you made, I want to draw back on, is when you said that it's a lot easier to not get help, right? To allow yourself to continue to feel like a monster, right? To continue to suppress emotions.
Keep hiding.
Yeah, that's a lot easier to do than being vulnerable, than seeking help and saying that you need help. And Jen and I could have talked for hours when we first talked.
Sure.
We had so many things to discuss, but one of the things that we kept coming back to was the fact that, to be a warrior is to be hard, right? Is to do hard shit, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, like to die and to go to Valhalla, right? And to kill and to protect. And one of the most legendary special operators ever is saying that the harder path is to seek help and to be vulnerable. So, therefore, if that is what it means to be a warrior, then you should always take the harder route,
Right. That's daily. That's what I try to impress upon people when they're screaming, I don't know how to, why can't I handle this? I've been trained for this. So it's the thought process. Guys screaming, I can't, I've been trained for this. Why can't I handle this? I'm like, stop and think about what you've been trained for. Have you been trained to manage this situation? Or have you been trained to create this situation? We were trained to create this situation, right? Shoot, move, communicate, medicate, seize property, take lives, and then move on. We weren't taught to deal with what that does to you emotionally. So I tell them, you don't need help. You just need training, and if you had training in it before, you need retraining. Because if you learned how to shoot, you didn't stop shooting and stay good. You had to keep shooting to stay good at shooting. So we always practice what we want to be good at. So if you want to be good in a relationship, you should see a marriage counselor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. We always go in our tier 1 units, we always go out to the professionals to train us. Because that's all they do. That singular thing is all they do. And they're very good at that. So we go learn that singular thing. Then we go over here and learn another singular thing, which makes us a whole of all this training. Well, there's another singular thing out there is mental health, right? I want a warrior that's mentally strong, not who's hiding issues at home, not who's struggling with a drinking problem or struggling with how they feel about anything in life. So that's just another tool that makes you a hardened warrior. We didn't have it in the day, so we made fun of people. Oh, this crazy used to be a term. Now there's 25 different things that could be wrong with you that are determined, deemed crazy as an injury or an illness or a sickness. But most of this can be taken care of by learning new habits. Everything I was done was a habit. I was rewarded for being violent. I was rewarded for being aggressive. I was given life by being dominant over top of people, sneaking into their house and being very aggressive with them until it was over. And I'm like, okay, well, everything's good to go. You're handcuffed or you're flex tied and everything's safe. I'm happy again, right? Minus I'm in somebody else's country and they want me dead. But, I can calm down just a little bit. And that's actually where we got the name for our nonprofit. All Secure was the first call sign on a target when everyone can let their guard down a little bit because everyone's detained and the target's been handled. You call All Secure over the radio. It's like, okay, I can take a breath now. Because before that, everything's very heightened. You can be killed at any second. And once it's all secure, everybody can let it down a little bit and we can start going about our lives a little bit normally and move on. So that's why we named the nonprofit that, kind of to get the people that feeling. But everything that we know in life, we've been trained to do. We've been taught it, we witnessed it, we watched it over and over again, we did it over and over again. And right now, well, not right now, but in my life when I retired, what I did over and over again was aggressiveness and dominance and narcissistic behavior so I could win everything I entered into, because if I didn't, I would probably be dead. So now I'm transferring that into life at home. She's like, oh, we're going to be late for the show. And I'm like freaking out because we're all going to die if we're late for the show, right? And it's that behavior. Or, well, we'll get to the party when we get there. Or, our friends are late. I'm like, why is everybody late? What's wrong with them? I can't believe people are late for things. And I just couldn't understand it. And everything was related to life and death for me. And you have to understand that's what you're acting out of. I'm acting out of fear all the time. You have love and fear, and I'm behaving and acting out of fear. And finally, I kind of transitioned slowly, and I'm still slowly transitioning into that love bucket, where I lead with love instead of fear. And I think that, things are brought up to me, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? Why are you attacking me? She's like, I'm just not attacking you. I just asked you a question. I'm like, sounds like an attack. Sounds like you're questioning my authority or my knowledge. And so I have to constantly shake those things, being questioned, when you're supposed to be dominant and on top and know everything. So people need to understand that is something they have to learn and practice over and over and over again to be good at it again.
Yeah.
To shake all that dominant, culture, that warrior culture that I need to be ready to fight. Man, I don't. If someone kicks in the restaurant, door and starts coming in and shooting people, I'll figure it out then. I don't need to train for that all the time now, right? I used to live in probability. Probably something bad's going to happen. Now it's possibly something bad will happen. I don't need to be prepared for that all the time. I go to the shooting range every day of the week and maintain my warrior skills like a lot of my friends do. I'm still going to be a warrior till the day I die. Good for you, man. But are you healthy at home? Let's talk to your spouse. Let's talk to your kids. Because if you continue that lifestyle, you're going to behave the same. I know you will.
And I think one of the things we need to do, and the reason for this podcast and our nonprofit, and I'm excited to get into how we can work together between All Secure and the 38 Challenge, but so I had a good mentor, Clint Bruce, and our tagline was going to be changing the warrior culture. But we're not really changing the warrior culture. We're making more efficient warriors by changing what the definition of what it means to, not changing the definition, but by arming them, like you said, to be with more tools, to be more hardened.
Add another skill.
Exactly.
Just adding another skill.
Because imagine if you could go out and experience the things that you experienced in Black Hawk Down, but then you didn't shut everything down afterwards. How much more efficient, how much more dangerous could you have been as a warrior if you didn't want to come back and shut everything off, right? And create these bad habits and ruts. So I think what it means to be a warrior doesn't need to change, but through vulnerability and through talking and through seeking help early, you're becoming lighter. You're becoming more dynamic, right? You're becoming faster, and you can address issues before they come to the surface, which will weigh you down as a warrior.
It's
100%.
Yeah.
And honestly, we were asked in Congress back in 2017. Tom and I went and spoke, and we met with a bunch of senators, representatives, congressmen. What's really shocking is a lot of them sat there and, a few of them grabbed my hand and, oh my gosh, we haven't had a veteran spouse up here. We haven't talked to veteran. I'm like, wait a minute, what? There's 18 million veteran families, and you haven't met one of us. It's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was asked was, so, you guys are trying to bring in vulnerability and all of these things. Is it going to weaken a warfighter? And I said, okay, let's just look at two different warfighters. You've got one special operator who is heavily drinking, maybe having multiple affairs. They're worried about getting caught. They're taking uppers, downers, 15 different pills. And, they're not making critical good decisions because they're not in a great place. Or you've got a warfighter over here on the other side who is making good decisions. They're not self-medicating with pills and booze. And they're taking care of themselves. And they're making proper decisions. Like, which one do you want on the battlefield? And everyone picks the second one.
Yeah.
So it's not making a weaker warfighter. It's like you said, it's making a stronger warfighter to make good decisions and to be in a good place. And Tom
they're
had
medicating.
many.
We didn't start off, everyone I know at work didn't start off drinking every day. We were health freaks.
Yeah.
Working out all the time, 4 or 5 times a day, working out. And in between, you're shooting and doing CQB, things like that.
In the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning. And then after years and years of combat and training like combat and away from home, you start drinking and drinking. It picks up and it picks up more and more and more. And then it's part of your life now, you know. And then you throw out that false bravado of, there's no vulnerability. We're warriors. We're never vulnerable. I'm like, oh, so living in a foreign country in a house that might get mortared every night, it's not being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Going out the front gate in a vehicle, looking for IEDs on the highway of death, which is the deadliest road in the world, and we drive down it every night 6 times. Not being vulnerable? Do you think you can get a medal by not being vulnerable? They just hand those out because you just did it. So it's just how they think. And that whole no-fail mission bullshit. No-fail missions. No-fail, man, we fail 1,000 times on missions. That's why we have SOPs, You have your planning process. Your primary plan fails, you go to your alternate, you go to your contingency, then you go to your emergency plan. And when all of those have failed on one mission, you operate under your SOPs that you've practiced every day because those are muscle memory for you. And that's what gets you through and wins every time. But you fail along every mission until you win. You just don't quit until you win. So it's that bravado that, I'm never vulnerable. I would never be vulnerable. Okay, well, then you'll never get anywhere or do anything, will you? You live in bubble wrap in your house and do nothing. You have to be vulnerable to get anything done.
How would y'all define vulnerability?
For me, I would define it as being open and honest about how something makes you feel.
Maybe regardless of how you're treated for it, I mean, honestly, opening up and sharing a story that's negative in nature, what you think is negative in nature about yourself, which is all we've done now because that's what it is to be a leader. Be the first on the dance floor. It'll be lonely for a bit. People even point at you and laugh at you, right? But then they all start creeping out there. Next thing you know, break dancing on the dance floor, man. Everybody's having a good time on it because you started it. You were the funny people. And then all of a sudden you're the leaders, It takes that. And it takes that with vulnerability. Sharing our stories gets other people to open up their stories because they don't feel alone or that it removes the feeling that they'll be judged for it. So we like to remove those feelings of, judgment or let me remove your excuse or let me share with you I've done 10,000 horrible things that you think you've done one of those and you're worried about sharing it with me. Don't worry about it. I've probably done it or heard about it. And there's not going to be any judgment. But being able to open that up and share it with people, regardless of how it's going to negatively impact you, is vulnerable for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, that's what makes a strong leader, being able to share your mistakes and what we've seen from the podcast. And I always think of the scene from Billy Madison.
Yeah.
When he pisses himself, or the kid pisses himself, and then he goes and everyone's laughing at him at first, right? And then another person starts doing it, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like everyone's being. I see the same thing with vulnerability, right? Yeah, I see the same thing with vulnerability, because especially like the more vulnerable I am, and the more I share my stories, and like, hey, I deal with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. Like, I'm not sure if it'll ever go away, right? Like I deal with these things of guilt and doubt, right? And people are like, man, you sharing that is so strong. But when you don't share that, you're like, I'm so weak, right? How could I be doing these things? But when you finally share it, people are like, man, that's what strength looked like. So people know that it's out there. They just need to do the hard thing and share it as well.
It's hard to come out of that shell as a warrior, right? What you've been told as a warrior, right? I'm a warrior, rub dirt on it hard and never cry, and especially how you were raised, depending on your parents or your father, what they told you, and then it's reinforced in basic, reinforced in all the selections you go through, reinforced at your unit, your team level. You got to be hard. And plus you're competing all the time. So you don't want to appear weak in front of those who want your job. It's like professional sports, You're always fighting for a position on the team. Every day you go to work and you're swiping your card and it turns green. You're like, oh, it's another good day. And that's just not a day. That's you go to lunch and you swipe and it turns green. You come back from lunch, you swipe to get in, it turns green. You're like, every day you're waiting on it to go red and the door doesn't open. And that's when they got rid of you because they decided you weren't contributing enough. So it's the competition tears you up and it kills you, The young people, as I got older and the younger kid, I'm like, I used to kick ass. And now I'm like, they're passing me and I'm getting tired on these long 12-mile runs. I'm like, I don't know, man, if I can do this. And I'm putting myself down because I'm finishing a 12-mile run behind a new guy, I'm still doing a 12-mile run. But I'm like 30 seconds behind the new guy who's younger than me by 20 years. And it kills you. It kills you all along the way.
So obviously, I don't think you've always been this vulnerable,
I know.
and I think that Jen probably had a big part in you being vulnerable. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Absolutely.
Jen, when you first met Tom, and you first met all these guys, what did you see, and kind of what did that look like for you to help transform this man into someone who is so passionate about sharing a story and helping warriors be vulnerable?
I had all the media version of military or special operations. I didn't have any experience working alongside or knowing anyone in that community. So I only had the TV version. And it was very, very different than what I think civilians are sold, which is this, invincibility, this almost robotic sense of like, these guys don't feel anything. Of course, I didn't really believe that, but it's just this sense of like hyper macho, world. And of course, I did see a lot of that. But what I also saw was a kid from Kentucky who signed up because his older brother was a Green Beret and, who had hopes and dreams just like everyone else, or, a guy on a SEAL team who's struggling with his wife and kids. I mean, these are fathers and sons and brothers and daughters, and they're people. And I think we can make them almost like caricatures and try and put them in a box. And I think that's when Tom said, he teased me. He's like, there's no crying in contracts. Like, stop crying. What are you doing? I'm like, nobody could see it's dark. But honestly, the amount of difficulty that is required, the amount of sacrifice that's required, the training is the only aspect I ever saw. I never deployed with these teams. In the training alone, people would be shocked how incredibly difficult and dangerous. The very first RMT I was on, a SEAL was killed in training. And
She's like, people die in training? I go, oh, all the time. She's like, oh, it's training. I go, I know, right? It's shocking that people die.
For,
yeah.
And even just that, like, I have 2 children, and what am I doing getting in these Blackhawks? And am I risking? Oh yeah, these helicopters go down all the time, and I can't imagine putting myself in that situation 1,000 different times and not have it affect me. And so I got to work really after a few years. Like Tom said, I couldn't stand seeing these men not come home. And the ones that were coming home, frankly, I remember there was a SEAL team we worked with really early on. 3 years later, I'm seeing the same team guys come through. And these guys are 26, 27. They're coming back at 30 looking 45. Just so incredibly tired, heartbroken, and they don't want to say heartbroken. But, I mean, I remember one time I was going out, and some of the moms at school were kind of teasing me like, oh, you're going out with the SEALs, and joking about, abs and things like that, and it kind of pissed me off, frankly, because I'm like, these men are getting ready to sacrifice possibly their life. And it is not all about abs and cuteness. Like, this is extremely serious business and a lot of sacrifice that's going in. And it's not at all like it is in the movies. And honestly, to look at some of their faces and talk to Tom afterwards, he's like, I could see it on you. I'm like, the weight and the heaviness that is on each of those faces was why I started All Secure. We had to have a landing place for them to come home. And I just didn't see that. I just saw constant struggle. I would ask like, hey, where do you guys need help? Where do you need support? What could we do for you? And 9 times out of 10, it was, I don't know how to be a good father. I don't know how to be a good husband. The anger that comes home with me, I don't know how to stop it. It wasn't about, losing Bob overseas. And of course that impacts you. And of course that's a heavy weight. But what I was seeing was just the weight of not being able to come home okay. That's what I saw.
I think the difference is that people try to understand, or it's the fear of death. I didn't have the fear of death. I didn't care. I wanted it, actually. It was, she's getting a safety brief in a helicopter, getting ready to fly over a deserted island in the Bahamas and stay there for a week.
And I don't like.
He's like, listen, you're going to watch this, pull this, if we do this, and blah, blah, blah. She's like, what did he say? We're going to take off. And I go, don't worry about it. We flip upside down and land in the water, we're dead.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, what? I go,
and there's like
we're
fluid
dead.
squirting
They
out.
do
of the
that to make
helicopter.
you feel good, but we're going to die. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the buckles and all that bullshit. You'll be dead. And she's like, what? And I shoved her on a plane before. This is hydraulic fluid. Don't worry about it. Don't slip in it. It leaks all the time. And why is there tape on it? There's tape on everything. It holds it together. And those briefings you get on an airplane. There's the oxygen mask will fall down. There's doors up here. And I always looked at the person sitting next to me and I go, don't worry. There'll be a big hole in the side of the plane. You can go out that one if you want. And they're like looking at me like, what? I'm like, I didn't have that feeling.
I would love to fly with you.
I could
That's
joke
awesome.
about death, the wings are bouncing, and I'm like, I've been stuck to the ceiling of an airplane before, as we crashed in on the way down. So you'll be okay, or you'll be dead. Don't be the fool in the middle, screaming all the way, and then you're okay, because then you're that fool that screamed all the way. So I just have fun with it. But meeting
bite
her,
your
and she's
lip
like,
as
we're
you're
going to
going
die.
down.
You could die. You could die doing anything. You could, die walking your dog. So I just didn't have it. Most guys I know don't have that fear of death. They don't. It's well been ingrained out of them.
To the point of like
to the
really
point of I'll live forever, probably.
reckless.
Reckless behavior
Crazy
happens.
reckless behavior.
Yeah, and that's, I think for civilians, it's important to understand, right? People aren't, like you said, it's not necessarily the trauma from losing Bob, which is trauma, and
Of course
it plays an impact, but it's the fear of having to, come home to a family and you have no idea how to deal with it, or to the fear of transition, right? That's why we lose so many warriors to transition, because it's a whole new life that they're not used to, and they're not afraid of dying, right? They're afraid of transitioning into something that they don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
the unknown.
I think that was a turning point even with Tom and I. He would tell me all the time when he met me, he's like, I'd die for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you would die for anyone. Like that's your job. And I said, what I really want from you is for you to live for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very difficult. I mean, even when I asked him to live for me, he looked at me like, I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to die for you. I don't know how to live for you.
So when did that conversation happen?
Maybe a year in.
Yeah. How many times did that happen? I mean, it was a long time of convincing to try to get me to do anything. It was,
2
first I had to
years.
admit something was wrong with me. First I had to admit I needed help. There was an issue, and then, oh, you can go do this to get help. And it was like, sure, we'll go counseling, we'll go therapy. And then I wouldn't go, and I wouldn't go. And it was until she's like heading out the door. Okay, I'll go as a last resort therapy, right? Just to keep you here, I'll go. I was fearful of someone telling me I was broken, I think. I didn't want to hear that I was broken, so I just wouldn't go. I didn't want to validate or certify the fact that I needed something. When I did, I needed to find empathy and compassion again. I needed to find love for myself again, I guess. A lot of people don't have that. I had zero of it, so therefore I couldn't love anybody else or anything else, and I didn't realize that. I just thought I was here to help other people. I was here to help her, but I was worth zero,
Everything was out the window for you then. I mean, no self-forgiveness, no real processing of, like I'd ask him, we sat down and I said, are you willing to talk about Somalia? I don't want to ask questions or be insensitive. And he was like, nah, it doesn't bother me. We were in a sidewalk cafe in St. Louis. And I think after maybe the second question I asked, tears just started flowing down his face. I'm like, oh my God. And this is like our third date or something, I'm like, that was a screw up, and then, but instead of trying to, I don't know, in the uncomfortableness, say it's okay, or try to encourage him, I just, for some reason, was like, let it go. Just keep going.
That was weird. I was so pissed.
And
like,
so
let it
it
go.
was
What do you mean?
probably like an hour.
And I love what you just said. Showing vulnerability, and then also, because it's a two-way street, right? Like you have to ask someone how, like, for you to be able to experience that uncomfortable and know that this conversation is going to be uncomfortable, but still willing to do it, that is vulnerability. And then for you willing to cry and to pour out your heart into something that, you weren't used to doing, there's two sides of the coin, right? Both equally as important, and both equally as uncomfortable.
Yeah, holding space for someone is really difficult, especially as like an empath and a fixer. I want to be like, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Fixing it.
Fixing
Yeah.
it. And so even I would encourage people who want to fix it to be uncomfortable in that silence or in that sitting and allowing someone to keep going in
Yeah.
that difficult space, because it's really important to keep going
And it's hard to screw something
not
like
shove
that up
it back down.
if
Right.
you're just listening to somebody. It's not like you're
It can be
standing on the street
difficult.
yelling jump, right? You're not
Right.
yelling jump. You're just having a conversation. People are like, I'm going to screw it up, and they're going to go off and do something. Well, people do what they do. They're going to go do what they do.
Yep.
Just be there, listen, share your pain. You know,
Mhm.
you don't have to look at somebody and go, what's wrong with you? You know, tell me what's wrong with you. It's like, hey, I've gone through life with a lot of issues, and then share your stuff that inevitably opens up someone else to, oh, me too. And, oh,
Every
you
time.
go through that too? Wow. What'd
Every
you
time.
do to help yourself? And, then boom.
And that's the whole point of this podcast is I hope people listen to this and are like, wow, these people are going through that as well. They're so willing and open to share their story. Like maybe I'll go share it. And then once you take that first step, then as we've talked about, the first step is what allows for growth. You're not going to be vulnerable and then be like, well, shit.
All better.
All better. Like that's, but what it, and as you've said, it's a lifetime, it's a journey, right? It's every day improving, and you're going to fall back and you're going to fall down, but you got to get back up and start trying new things and have more conversations.
Yeah, everybody
Hard is
fails.
hard, and
Yeah.
you've got to pick your hard. Either it's hard to live in the misery you're in, which was very hard for him, but it was also really hard for him to ask for help. It was really hard for him to put in the work. It was really hard when he would have a fallback or a bad month or bad 3 months, and it was hard for him to start again. But every single time he did something really hard, he gained confidence in this new world and his new self, and those lapses became shorter and quicker, and he just started living on the better side of things more and more and more. But it was hard.
Forgiveness has to come quick. You have to forgive yourself fast.
Mm.
A lot of guys have never forgiven themselves, so that's step one, forgive yourself for whatever it is, and then continually forgive yourself, because you're not going to just stop screwing up. And you have to forgive yourself and move on, or you're going to sit and well in it again.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get depressed again. You're going to put yourself down again. And it's so easy to be hard on ourselves. We're the hardest on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to immediately forgive, which is hard because it's so easy to start beating yourself up. I did it again. She has every right to hate me again. And I'm a piece of shit, and then there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
There it goes. You'll believe yourself, Who was it recently said, that voice in your head is still yours.
Yeah.
Just which one is it?
Mm.
Is it pissed off you? Is it young you? Is it scared you? Is it happy you? Which, you got to understand who you're talking to when you're listening to your own voice.
Yeah. And that's I struggle with that every day, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes because for me, right, I'm pursuing an infinite mission, right? We're not ever going to eliminate suicide.
Right.
But that's the goal. So every day but you have those thoughts in your head. Am I doing enough? Am I helping enough people? Did you put in enough effort today, right? Are you working hard to save, it's like those type of things, but you have to be, like you said, you have to forgive yourself, allow yourself to love and to heal and to rest.
Yeah.
And all these things are so important. Yeah, I think, so I think the importance of, as you mentioned, like not stopping when you ask someone how they're doing, right? So I have gotten the habit now of asking people that I'm close with, right? Because vulnerability is like, you don't go up to, I just asked Max, or just met Max, probably not going to, dive really deep into his life, but we could. But one of the questions that I do is I say, how are you doing mentally? I add the word mentally at the end of it because it takes someone back, right? And you have to really think, because how are you doing? I'm good.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You get-
Every
you get
time.
that program
good.
response,
yeah,
right?
I'm good.
Good.
Like, how are you doing? Good. How are
Fine.
you doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
You move on. That's just a greeting now. How are you doing mentally? People are like, shit.
Well, what's wrong
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Wait, I got to
You
think
a
about
doctor?
this
they're
one.
like, yeah, they're like,
Do I answer
good?
honestly?
Yeah, like, I'm doing good.
Whoa.
Oh, and then it's like, okay, that's awesome. You're doing good. Like what are you doing that's making your mental health in this good state? Or, then that might lead to more questions, and then you can start to ask more questions. So I think
I love that.
the importance of, like you said, allowing to keep digging deeper, even though it's so uncomfortable, and it's like, for both people, it's like, what are we doing right now? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's
Feels
weird.
it's so
weird.
weird. It's so weird and so uncomfortable, but it leads to always afterwards, it's both parties always feel this sense of relief, right?
Totally.
And ready to, and confidence, as we talked about, and ready to take on what's next. I think so. For the month of September, I wrote down 38 names that I was gonna call. Haven't called all of them. Just goes to show how hard it is to have hard conversations.
Right.
It
But
is.
there's a couple ones that immediately came to mind. Of like, man, I don't want to talk to this guy at all. Like it's like we all have them, right? It pops up on your phone, and you're like,
Yeah, I'm not available.
yeah, exactly. But so I called them, and I had conversations that I had been avoiding for years. And afterwards, you're so much more confident. Like doing anything
freeing.
uncomfortable in life, right? You're ready, and you're craving that next uncomfortable conversation. It's like, well, what can I do now, right? Who can I help now? So with that, what is y'all's mission at All Secure? Because I think we've covered how we got there, right? Through Tom's personal stories, through you seeing this, and through wanting to help. So what is the All Secure Foundation about, and how are y'all helping warriors and their families?
He always looks at me.
Yeah, well, we
Every
started
time.
off as a resource library that Jen just basically
Yeah.
compiled everything that she had done to help me and us
Mm-hmm.
to make it easier for other people to find. Like,
Because it was so darn hard.
why dig it up and
hard.
just use it for yourself, right? So
Mhm.
let's just do a website, put it out there, and people can find it, And that's how we started. It doesn't take money to share information. And then she kept going, and I'll let her describe that. But from zero idea of what to do, had no idea how to build a.
Well, it
but
really
she-
came from the community.
Yeah.
Of just spending really that last year I was on RMTs. I remember telling Tom, I'm like, I'm not supposed to be a photographer or filmmaker anymore. I know that. I feel that in every bit of my spirit. He's like, okay, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, but it's something, and it's something to do with helping these guys come home. But that really started with the resources, but it really came from asking for that last year of what is lacking? Where do you need help? What area is it? And, I thought initially it would be kind of in the health and wellness category because I was seeing 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. I was seeing really poor eating habits. I mean, it was funny because I guess the mindset I had was like, oh, these guys are really built. They're super athletes, they must eat really well and sleep really well. And
Anything you
I'm
can get out
like,
of a gas station.
wow, they're eating out of gas stations. They're, not sleeping. They're having 5 or 6 Rippets a day. Like, okay, maybe this is like the health and wellness bucket. And they're like, no, we have trainers for that. We have, resources for that. And it just came down to, again, can you help me be better at home? And so after about a year of resourcing, we started talking to spouses. And because I wasn't a military spouse, I'm a veteran spouse. I didn't have a whole lot of close friends that were military spouses. But once I started talking to them, man, the amount of sacrifice, the amount of dedication, the amount of service they're providing, and literally with zero resources. There's a million nonprofits for veterans, and there aren't very many, if any, for the families. So that's where we got really passionate as we turn our focus on to we're going to help the Special Operation Family Unit because really we sent one guy off, a good friend of ours. He went down to Warrior's Heart. We helped fund the entire thing, and his marriage completely and utterly collapsed because he went away 14 weeks, got sober, got clean, got better, came back with a whole new mission in life, and it was really powerful and beautiful to see. His family, who had been there for him for 20 years, through the affairs, through the drugs, through the abuse, didn't have any resource for healing. And so it destroyed the entire family, even though he healed. And so we knew, hey, we have got to help. We have got to bring the spouse into this process, or it's not going to work for either. And so that's where we really became focused on our mission of course, we help single war fighters that come forward and say, hey, I need that training. I need that retraining. How do I survive better at home? How do I thrive? We have licensed clinical social workers, 4 or 5 of them now. Every day, all day, that's what they're doing. They're helping folks find their path. But we also do retreats. So we have special operation couples that come with us for 4 days, and they're going to work on raw spots. They're going to work on reconnecting and really kind of building that foundation of the relationship back after all the effects of war.
Our
constant deployments.
Our retreats are so beautiful. We have our last one of the year this weekend, and it's Thursday to Sunday at Big Cedar Lodge, and it's one of those Thursday, get to know each other, just hey, have a drink and talk and have some snacks, and here's what we're going to do tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Everybody's like terrified.
Oh, the faces.
Special operators don't like to get help, so they fight all the way there. We know it. Now we put out emails and texts. Hey, we know it's difficult to travel. We know we've had people, I'm out of here. She's not doing this exercise right. I'm going to the airport. I'm like, oh, please don't divorce now.
Yeah.
Every
At least
retreat,
3 or 4.
fighting. Every retreat, somebody wants to leave. Every retreat, there's just, and I'm terrified it's not working. It's not working. And then day 2. When day 2 starts and people have cracked out of their shells and they've been taught some tools and now they've used them on date night and they're back on day 2, it happens every time. Everyone opens up. The spouses understand it. The warriors realize that, man, they got to get to work and that it's everyone in the room's the same and they connect and it takes off. And I love it. And we were going to cancel them this year because they're expensive and they're time consuming and hard for us, for 10 couples versus, well, we could help 300, right? As soon as you dilute the process, right, you start diluting the results. And so we talked to ourselves. After the last retreat, it went so well again. I go, we can't. I go, we can't. We just have to go find the money, right?
Yeah.
We can't just turn these off. We just have to keep doing what we do and do this too. So
it's truly a gift, I feel like, to be in the room.
Every time, for a year, we sit there and I learn from it. She learns from it. We learn each time. We grow. Our therapist grows. The couples grow and they come right back. They want to come back. It's like, no, we got to get more people going. But we hold on to them for, well, as long as they need it after that as well. It's not like, hey, you want it done, you're out of here. We continue to help them until they're good to go on their own. And then they may check back in a year or 6 months. Hey, I just need a little bit of a, booster or something.
We still do resources. So,
Yep.
we don't provide every modality of healing. We're really kind of the therapy wing of it. So we partner with a ton of nonprofits. Someone might go off and do a psychedelic, but then they're going to need reintegration and therapy after. So they'll come to us for a year after that. Or someone might go get a stellar ganglion block shot. We do work with them before and after, but we'll have another nonprofit that's funding the shot or funding the psychedelics. So we partner with a ton of organizations. So sometimes people will come to us saying, hey, I heard about, you've got some great resources for TBI. We don't do TBI, but we're not going to let anyone go once they come to us for that training or retraining.
Well, let's talk TBI. Jen, we had a long conversation as well. But yeah, so I founded the 38 Challenge, but I also run the military programs for Concussion Legacy Foundation. So I run a project or a program called Project Enlist, and what we're trying to do is to spread awareness on how brain injuries are impacting our warriors. Because as we've talked about in this conversation, to deal with losing Bob or to come home and to transition out, right, and to be placed into this new environment that you're not used to and you're afraid of, you have to do all that with a brain that's injured. And not a lot of people understand that their brain is injured, right? They think that they're dealing with these things, they think that it's them, that they're crazy, right? Or that they're
weak or
they're weak or it's just them. Exactly. But there are psychological, cognitive, behavioral changes to your mind that literally are the reason behind a lot of these actions. It's the reason behind a lot of suicide. After one concussion, one MTBI, your chances of suicide doubles after one. So imagine the amount of TBI in the military, right? Injury on injury on injury to the brain that you just can't see. So, Tom, what's been your experience with TBI?
Exactly that. The lack of understanding of what's wrong with me. Why do I think the things I think? Why do I behave the way I behave? Guys feel broken. One of the best things that has happened to us was we had a brain scan going up to Chicago before we had a Stella shot. Like, I want to scan your brain before and after the shot. Yeah, sure, whatever. You run through these tests that piss you off. You take it. I mean, you're doing them wrong. You're trying so hard to do it right, and you get so pissed off. And I'm like, I get it. You're pissing me off. So you're going to read my brain when I'm angry. And then you go in and do an MRI, and then you get the shot. Then you get another shot. And then you come back and do the scans again. And the difference was amazing. And some doctor from Hollywood called. Had never met me. I don't even know if he knew I was in the military or not. He just knew there was a brain scan. 2 days apart. And they were so different. and he
This is
described
after stellate.
what's
Yeah.
that?
This is after stellate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And it was a 2-day process, and your brain scan, shot, brain scan, in 2 days. He said, I've never seen this much difference in a brain. He said, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you have outbursts? Do you say things that you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this to you, but I'm still saying it to you, and like, God, why can't I stop myself? And like, that's it. Do you go from like 0 to rage? Yep, that's it. Do you have this? Do you have that? I'm like,
Sleep
my God, this
issues,
guy
do you
is
have-
describing me
Mm.
perfectly by looking at the colors of my brain on his scan. Because we can fix this with stuff. And I go, I'm not taking drugs, doc. No more. He goes, no, it's all natural. Amazon stuff. Here, buy it off Amazon. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. And then you get a hyperbaric chamber, and you do that. And then we'll do another scan, and we'll see how you're doing. We no longer call it invisible wounds of war because you can see it. You can heal it. You can take care of it, minimize it, and fix a lot of things. So
And also,
that gives up a lot of hope for people who were previously terrified to be diagnosed and have it and wonder, what do I do now?
to understand it's an injury. It's not a matter of willpower or weakness or anything else that gets assigned to some of these behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
It's an injury. And so I think for Tom, I watched his eyes tear up as this doctor saying the things he's saying, because for Tom for so long, he's like, why can't I control this? Why can't I control that?
It's like, I've never been like this before. She thinks I've been this way my whole life. So you start thinking that she thinks I'm just mean, always mean to people and say the weirdest shit. Like, no, I promise I don't do that, But you're doing it. And it's hard when you do
Or
things
just
that you
the
don't want to do.
frustration. The frustration of, I forget things, and then the embarrassment or the shame that gets attached to it from TBI. And, I'm supposed to be this super sharp warfighter, and I can't remember things. And like you said, the suicidal ideation, that was something that was never explained to us ever, was that due to his concussions and concussed brain, that, he's at least twice as likely to have suicidal ideation, and to understand that's part of the injury as well. Nobody ever told him that or explained that to him.
Yeah, and if you look at all the issues within the veteran community, right, a lot of them come down to behaviors and decisions. And so what's not well known in the veteran community, which our goal is to make it well known and to continue to get brains so we can further the research, so we can create the same community that's in the NFL and football. CTE is running rampant within our veterans, and it's because it's caused by repetitive head impacts or repetitive traumatic brain injuries. But what is defined as a TBI, like in the military, a lot of people think TBI, like you have to be, in Black Hawk Down, right?
Right.
This, like, that's not like there's subconcussive blasts are still TBI, right? If you, like you said, in training, right? People die in training, breaching, right? And even shooting assault rifles and having this low-level blast exposure, all these can create injuries to the brain. And it's not, sometimes you can't see it, and sometimes it's not a diagnosed TBI, but it doesn't mean you're not impacted by the effects of it. So side effects include impulsivity, right? So making impulse decisions. I don't think my brother's suicide was premeditated. I think it was an impulse decision because of the demons that those voices in his head, right? Because it wasn't functioning or firing how it should have been, right? And things like aggression, right? Things, one of the things that's always described is that change in behavior and mood that can go from 0 to 100 really quick. And I saw all these things in my brother but it wasn't made aware to me, and it wasn't made aware to him. And on his computer, before he died, one of the last things he researched was Junior Seau, who died from CTE, and what happened to Junior Seau's family. So what we have to do is we have to spread awareness that there is hope, right? Because my brother knew that he was dealing with brain injuries, and he was terrified by what his life would become. And so our message is that there are things out there that can help you, right? You can take control of your life, do things like meditation, go seek help, have therapy. You can start to slowly but surely repair the brain. And then we need to work together to be able to provide and further research on these treatments like stellate, like hyperbaric, like, plant medicine, psychedelics, all these things, right? We need to continue to spread awareness and research and funding for them so we can help veterans now.
100%.
Yeah, remove that fear and the stigma of like psychedelics, the new drugs, the new technologies that those are illegal. Don't do, okay, alcohol's legal. Marijuana's not, I don't know if marijuana's legal or not anymore. I can't tell anymore. But
Some places.
federally it's okay now. I don't know, but who knows? But a lot of those things are helping, and we have to be on the tip of the spear for those treatments and things like that.
Right. And if it doesn't matter what it is, like if eating that plant saves your life, then do it.
Eat the plant.
Yeah, eat the plant.
Yes.
Like there should be no stigma. Like
my friends might judge me if I eat that plant, but you'll be alive.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't want to be judged.
Yeah. Your friends are gonna. There'd be a lot more sad if you're dead than if you eat that plant.
100%.
And I think we talked about this. So one of the things on the podcast that we always do when we talk about TBI is we ask the guest to pledge their brain for Project Enlist. I think we might have talked about that. I don't know if I don't know if we were. Are you comfortable with doing that?
Yeah, I am. If anybody wants my brain, I always am.
I think you'd be a prime candidate.
Anything that would help other people, I'm all about it. I'm already an organ donor anyway, but yeah, I would definitely take that pledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's especially in the special operations community, we're seeing all these legends of war, right? And there's movies about them and like yourself and books and all these things, and for them to pledge and to spread awareness, right, is I think so important. So I thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll help a lot of people. Before we end this conversation, which has been awesome, you guys have a movie coming out, a documentary? Is that what we were?
Yeah.
I hope
a couple
so.
Projects coming out. One actually about brain health.
Okay.
That'll probably be spring. That's not our project. But we are working on a screenplay for All Secure as well.
And then the podcast, when does that launch?
October 18th.
Okay.
So
and what is
that'll be every Tuesday.
Okay.
We're talking to, it's not the typical cool guy podcast. There's a lot of really great podcasts that share military stories, which are wonderful. But ours really focuses on healing. So we talk to operators who struggled like Tom and some of the tactics they've used and tools to get to the other side of it. We talk to field experts that can give advice and
so much more.
And so much more. It's like right off of our trailer. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be this typical same old, tell me your war story again, tell me your war story again. It's like, okay, yeah.
You wake up at 4:30, like, okay.
I got you. Yeah, well, okay, we all do. All right,
Yeah,
let's tell us something cool.
It's so funny. People honestly will ask Tom,
I don't
do you
sleep.
still get up at 5 and work out? He's like, I did that for 25 years. I sleep in a little bit now. It's okay.
Yeah, I sleep in now.
But yeah, so that's just All Secure on that podcast. So.
Awesome. So if you could have, for someone out there who's at the point where they've had, they're in that dark spot, right? They're at rock bottom. They're banging their pistol on their head, right? And thinking that they want it all to end. What would y'all's advice to them be?
You're loved. And don't ever forget that. You're not alone and you're loved. Man, so many messages I could say to people, but the main one is honestly that you're loved and cared for, right? Don't think about your kids. Sometimes people are, I'm thinking about my kids. It's the story they're telling themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Just think about yourself. Think about yourself as a human being. You're loved. You're worthy to be alive. And this is not a death sentence,
No.
How you feel is not a death sentence.
You're meant to be here. You're absolutely meant to be here. I think I read a statistic, and I'll totally screw it up, but it was something like it's 1 in a million trillion chances that you're going to be born as a human in this universe. Right. And there's no way you're an accident. You're meant to be here. You have a mission, and your mission will continue. You just need to refocus it.
Yeah. Just another one with that is to stop living in the rearview mirror. It's so small. Look out the windshield for the future. It's brighter. If you keep staring in the rearview mirror, you're going to crash your car anyway. And it's so much smaller, and no one cares. Really, no one cares about what you did. No one cares about your past. They care about who you are and how you feel. And I think those people should too. I didn't care about how I felt at the time. So I want those people to understand that they should care about how they feel as well. And they should feel good. It's okay to feel okay.
Yeah. It's okay not to feel okay. Just don't stay stuck in it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. The important part is to feel, like you said.
Yeah. Give yourself permission to feel okay. You don't have to punish yourself the rest of your life for something someone else did or something you blame yourself for. That honestly, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's easier said than done. I don't know how to reach somebody who doesn't want to listen.
Right.
You know, when someone's turned off, we don't help people. We don't reach out and call people. Like, hey, you need some help today? Because it won't work. They have to want the help. Like, you call my friend. They're really in trouble. I go, have your friend call me. Have them text me, email me, smoke signals. All I need is something, and I'll reach out. But they have to do the first thing.
I get that a lot too, and I say that's not my responsibility to get them to talk. Right.
Yep.
Have them listen to an episode of our podcast, or have them understand the mission, and then let them understand that them reaching out to me is strong. And once they can show that strength, then I'll drop everything, and at the drop of a hat, I will stop 100%. Everything I do to get them the help that they need, because they were willing to show that level of strength and vulnerability.
Just a glimmer 100%. Of just a glimmer of I want help, and people are there. People are there for you.
Training.
Yeah.
Last question for y'all. We'll get out of here. We ask this to all of our guests. What does the 38 challenge mean to y'all?
I think to me, like everything else, it means not giving up, not stopping. There's always hope out there, right? Any kind of challenge, any kind of mission or goal can be anything in life. And I think it just, I hate to throw out the greatest phrase fair to try, but honestly, never quitting something, right? It means you're the winner. Never quitting something. Take those challenges and stay healthy, stay focused on yourself and care.
Yeah, you kind of took mine. I would just say, people really put down small steps or baby steps. But, like Tom always says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I think that's just a good approach to take with anything in life. It's just understand that even those small steps, it might feel really small or look small to someone else. Like you said, that strength for reaching out and making that first call, that looks like a little step of an email or text or phone call, but it's huge. And I think the most important thing is just to start.
Yeah.
Just start.
And that's what we see ourselves as. As you mentioned, there's over 45,000 veteran nonprofit organizations. We don't necessarily need more programs.
Right.
Right.
But we need people to reach out and to call and to understand that is strong, because they're out there for you. You just got to do the hard work and show up. 38 Challenge is about showing up and taking the first step.
Yeah.
So, man, what an awesome conversation. Check out All Secure Foundation. Be on the lookout for the podcast that is coming out, and I can't wait to do some amazing work with y'all.
Yeah,
we're excited about that. Thank you for having us.
Of course.